All right. Welcome to our next lesson. In the last couple lessons, we were going over the Persian Wars. Hopefully you enjoyed it, but I'm kind of hoping it kind of inspired you guys to kind of go look up more on those, the Persian Wars and all the stuff about it out there. There's a lot of things out there on it if you want to know more. But in this lesson, we're going to be moving on to the next war, the Peloponnesian War. This is actually where Sparta and Athens go at it with each other. So basically the two of them led Greece in this united effort against the Persians. They become incredibly powerful. Basically what happened after the war is Sparta just kind of went back to doing its own thing for a little bit, whereas Athens realized we have a navy. We have a big navy. We also have a very large army. And Persia is still out there. So maybe we should keep an alliance in place so that we can basically make sure we can still defend ourselves, and, well, maybe we can also do a lot with a big empire type thing. So basically what I'm doing is just giving you a synopsis on this idea that Athens builds quite a large empire. Sparta doesn't like it very much. Starts to get its own alliances, and you could say empire going. And then after about 50 years of just this tension between the two, they finally just go kapow, and they go at it with each other. So I'm going to go through just how this works in some major, going to delve into it at least a little bit. So, again, the Peloponnesian War is the war between Sparta and Athens in the end. But we need to talk a bit about the stuff that happens leading up to it. So, first thing, I just talked about Athens coming up with a major empire. When you look at this map, everything in red are areas that essentially say Athens will look to you as a leader. We might not like you very much, but we'll look to you as a leader because, hey, if those Persians who are still right next to us, by the way, all that Ionian Greek territories, they have their independence now after the Persian Wars are done. They are not ruled over by Persia any longer, but Persia is still right there next to them. So you kind of have this very in-your-face fear of they might come back and take us. Maybe they won't go over there and get you, Athens, but they could come over and get me, if I'm on that Ionian coast. So Athens forms this major empire. I say empire. Empire is the wrong word right now. The correct term is actually Athenian League. Creates this large league of all these city-states that feel like they're equals, although they find out later that Athens is really the one that's going to order everybody around. I'll get there in a second. But they all are basically joining together for the idea of safety and security. We'll all come to each other's needs and help each other out if something happens, which, again, that's one of those things that goes into this idea of, say, the United States, join or die, united we stand, separate we fall, that type of thing. It's the same deal here with that fear of Persia. They're not at war at the moment, but there is that fear of Persia still there. Okay, so this alliance starts off with just basically saying things like, all right, this is what we're going to do. We're going to have everybody kind of like sign a contract and say that we're part of this league, this Athenian League. We promise to help each other out, to defend each other, and most importantly, it takes money to do that. So every city-state is responsible for contributing a certain amount of money that's going to go towards the upkeep of the army and the upkeep of the navy and building a larger army and a larger navy that's always going to be there to protect us when we need it. Now, the leader of this army and this navy it becomes more often than not, it becomes Athens. Because Athens, they are the most powerful, the most prestigious, the most wealthy at this time. They're the ones that definitely led the charge and allowed everybody to be free in the first place, and they're throwing their weight around a little bit here. But to make sure that everybody thinks that this is just an Athenian League, they actually put the treasury for all this money they gather on a tiny little island in the middle of the Aegean Sea. If you're seeing it right here, a little island called Delos. That way, basically, it's like the smallest among us is still important. It's just, anyways. That's the Athenian League. Now, the reason why I say it's an unfair alliance is, well, in the end, Athens would always get its way. Whenever someone else would have some sort of thing like saying, I don't like what we're doing here, or I think things should be done a little bit differently, if Athens didn't agree, it didn't happen. And so really this was a league that could be called the Athenian Empire instead of just the Athenian League, because Athens really did run things. Now, as they were building this up, Sparta was looking at this and saying, that's huge. Well, what if they turned that military might and that power against any one of us? And Sparta, even though they felt pretty confident they could beat anybody in a land war, well, when they look at the combined militaries of all those other Greek city-states, that gets them thinking a little bit. So they start making alliances as well, and that's where you see everything in purple on that map. And they call this the Peloponnesian League. So really what it comes down to is everything in red is all these different people, in a way, all these different city-states looking at Athens as their begrudging leader when it comes to defending themselves from, say, another Persian attack. Whereas everybody in purple are uniting in this idea of like, well, Athens, you might be a bit too powerful. You need essentially a check and balance in place. And so we're going to combine against you just in case you try anything, but we'll join you if Persia does attack. And so that's why you have this, it's somewhat peaceful but major tension involved for like a good 50 years. Now, one of the leaders, I'll just bring all this up. So, the leader that really gets a lot of credit for basically, credit, if you put it this way, from the Athenian perspective, credit for getting Athens ready for this war with Sparta is a guy named Pericles. So, he is an influential leader of Athens. In a way, he's a bit of a tyrant. They don't use that term. I think they use the term archon now for someone who has a little bit more executive authority. I'm not going to go into explaining the Athenian democracy at this point. There are some changes to it, though. But he is seen as this overall leader that just has a lot of foresight. He can see how things are going to work. He knows there's going to be a war with Sparta at some point. It's just going to come to that. The two biggest guys on the block are finally going to knock heads for some reason or another. And so he comes up with a strategy that's going to allow them to defend themselves against Sparta. He's like, well, we can't take them on land. I mean, Sparta, with even just the other city-states like Corinth and Thebes joining up with them, like, our armies are big and huge, yes, but those Spartans, they're scary. Like, they'll easily take us out. By the way, there's a lot of Athenians saying, no, we can take them now. We're so much bigger and better than they are. Anyways, Pericles was much more realistic. Like, no, we can't. So he built something called the Piraeus Wall. This becomes vital when we get to the Peloponnesian War. But if you look at that map in the bottom right, it looks kind of like a bone. But you see the city of Athens with a wall around it that then extends all the way down to the port town of Piraeus, hence the term Piraeus Wall. What this does is that when ships are bringing in all those grain shipments that we talked about, especially when we talk about the colonization of the Mediterranean and the Black Sea and things like that, well, that's what Athens still relies on those shipments. As they bring those in, they bring it into a fortified, walled area where they then can transport those goods 7 miles inland to the city of Athens. So it connects Athens directly with the sea, and this switches or negates the idea of Sparta's military power because now it's siege warfare. And a siege really wouldn't work against this, and it doesn't work against this, to where the Spartans or anybody could lay siege to Athens. Athens has more than large enough of an army to defend all of this. And it when I say it earlier, it negates the Spartan just dominance on land, because this isn't land warfare, this is siege warfare. Very different. Much easier to kill a Spartan climbing up a ladder than it is to kill a Spartan with his buddies in a phalanx formation on a battlefield. So, anyways, the response to this by Sparta, well, you think they might have worked on some things to deal with that wall, but they don't. They just say, all right, I think we need more guys. So in the Peloponnesian League, they say, all right, what we're going to do is we're going to collect taxes from everybody as well. Athens or the Athenian League, they collected taxes actually in the form of money to pay soldiers as well as to build a fleet and maintain and build a larger fleet. But Sparta says, well, we're going to collect taxes, and it's going to be in the form of men. We're going to have this big army together, but your taxes are, contribute men to this league. And if you're kind of seeing this, that's not going to help out a whole ton when it comes to Piraeus Wall, because, well, Athens has a massive army as well. The Athenian League, I should say, has a massive army as well. So this is the setup leading into things. Both sides see something coming. They know it's going to come to knocking heads. It's just a matter of when. That matter of when starts up. I feel like I just cut out a slide here. Let me go back to this map. I need to give you this setup and just how things work. I hope I have my names right here, but basically what happens is, over time, like these 50 years of tension and build-up, not everybody in each league is kind of happy with their leader. Again, nobody likes anybody else. It's an alliance of convenience type thing. And there's quite a few people in Athens in the Delian League, that are mad at Athens. Like, you guys are running the show. This isn't cool. In fact, there was a point where Athens said, well, things aren't as safe as they should be on Delos. What if Persia sends a fleet up and takes it out? So they forcefully take the treasury of Delos and put it in Athens. And then it's believed that they were corrupt. They took a lot of that money and used it for things other than the military and the navy, the armies and the navy. It's believed, at least from what I've read, classes I've taken, things like that, that it could be that buildings like the Parthenon, because that's part of the rebuild. All the Athens stuff that we see today is the rebuild of Athens after Xerxes destroyed it. But buildings like the Parthenon and these amazing buildings we still see today might have been built, or most likely were built, with Delian League money that was not supposed to be used by Athens for Athens. It was supposed to be used by the Delian League for the protection of all. So anyways, you could say a bit of just corruption going on there, money laundering, however you want to put that. So, a bunch of people get pissed off at this. They're like, Athens, you're treating this as if this is your empire, not as if we're all equal partners in this. And one city-state that's really ticked off, and if I remember where they're at, I believe it's way up here, like this island way up here at the top. I don't know if you see my cursor. I believe it's called Thasos. I'm pretty sure this is Thasos. I could be getting this wrong. Let me know in class or email me or something like that if I can get this part wrong, but I'm pretty sure it's Thasos. Where Thasos basically says, we're out. We're going to take our ships that we've contributed. We're going to take our men that we've contributed to the army, and we're pulling out of the league. If Persia attacks us, whatever. But we're pretty pissed off at Athens right now. So they pull out of the league. And Athens, they can't let this happen. If they let even just a little city-state like Thasos pull out, then what if someone else decides to pull out? And all of a sudden their empire breaks up and their money breaks up and things like that. Things were looking so great, and now they won't be. So they need to basically send a message. They basically say that Thasos is doing this because they've made an alliance with the Persians, that they're traitors to the cause, and basically send the army and the navy up to Thasos and completely destroy it. And this was definitely a message to everybody else saying, you want to leave too? Do you? Nobody leaves, although this does tick off a lot of other cities as well. Now, when Sparta sees this happen, and how Thasos gets destroyed like this, they know there's other city-states out there that would like to leave the Athenian League but won't now because they're just so afraid to. And leave the Delian League. I call it Athenian League because it really is that at this point. But Sparta, well, how would I put this? If I'm making it sound like Athens is like the bad guy and Sparta is the good guy, well, you're going to get the idea that both sides are a bit devious here. Sparta comes up with an idea. They want to take on Athens. They really want a war, and they want it now. But you can't just start a war. You can't just say, I declare war on you. You have to come up with a reason for it, and one that everybody can get behind. Get public opinion on your side type thing. Give yourself a good justification for this, because they don't have it yet. It might sound like the destruction of Thasos could be that, but no, it's not, because Thasos, well, that was part of the Athenian League. That was their deal. They're dealing with that. So Sparta decides to send an envoy over to another island in the southern Aegean. It's somewhere in this area right here, called Melos. So Melos is another one of these island city-states in the Aegean that is not happy to be part of the Athenian League, wants out. They don't like Athens. And Sparta comes over and says, hey, switch sides. Why don't you come and join us? And if you do, you have the protection of the greatest army on earth on your side. So Athens wouldn't dare attack you if they came at you. Melos was like, sweet. You know what? Anything's better right now than being under the thumb of Athens. So they send an envoy up to Athens and saying, we're pulling out. We're not paying the tax any longer, the communal tax any longer. Basically, screw you. We're out of this. Athens basically says, what's going to happen if you pull out? And Melos is still like, yep, we're pulling out. We're not part of the Peloponnesian League. Sparta will defend us. And Athens, they know what's up. They know that if they just go after Melos now, this is a huge pretext for war with Sparta. That's not something they want to avoid either. They want a major war with Sparta too. So Sparta wants it, Athens wants it. They both want the excuse to do it. So Athens definitely takes the bait. They go and destroy Milos too. And there's no Spartan army to protect him because they're an island. Like, how come Milos did not? Anyways, Sparta didn't have the ability to go and protect him. They said they would, but they didn't have the ability. Milos bought into it. Athens still came down and destroyed them. And now Sparta can say, how dare you attack a member of the Peloponnesian League? We now declare holy war against you. So now the war has started, the war between Athens and Sparta. So that is the build-up towards this whole war. That's how it gets started. That's how you can kind of see shady things going on both sides. And we'll continue this in the next part of this. Like, this will be the end of this lesson for the Peloponnesian War. Hopefully finish it off in the next one. Okay.